Welcome back. Tonight, we reach the final shore of a legend that has spanned ages, the closing chapter of a king who was and shall be again. You find yourself at the end of a long journey, from the first light of a sword pulled from stone, through the golden peace of a kingdom called Camelot, to this, the quiet horizon of destiny. Whether you have walked every step with us, or are just now stepping into the mist, let the world behind you fade. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, only the story, only this moment. And now, we return to the fields of Camlan, where the echoes of the past meet the soft sunset of an age, as a great legend prepares to drift into eternal sleep. Chapter 1: The Last Duel. The hour before dawn is the darkest. At Camlan, the battlefield lies silent except for the cries of ravens. Bodies everywhere. The grass slick with blood and dew, trampled into mud by thousands of feet. The air smells of iron and death. This is what remains of Arthur's dream. This is what remains of Camelot. Arthur stands with Bedivere and the wounded Lucan. 3 men, where once there were 300 knights. 3 survivors of the Round Table, standing in a wasteland they helped create. Arthur's armor is dented and scratched, his surcoat torn and stained. But he stands straight, his hand resting on Excalibur's pommel. Across the field, through the thinning darkness, Mordred waits with his last few followers. Perhaps a dozen men, no more. Everyone else is dead or dying. "My lord," Bedivere says quietly, his voice rough with exhaustion and grief. He has been fighting for 2 days straight. His sword arm aches. His legs tremble. "Let me go. Let me end this. You've done enough. More than enough." He gestures at the carnage around them. "You don't need to spill more blood. Especially not your own son's blood." Arthur shakes his head slowly, his eyes never leaving Mordred's distant figure. "No, Bedivere. This is my burden to carry. He is my son, and my sin. The fruit of my one great mistake, my one moment of weakness." His voice is heavy with regret, but also with resolve. "It must be me who ends it. Only me. This is my responsibility." Bedivere wants to argue, but he knows that tone. He has known Arthur for 40 years. When the king speaks like this, there is no changing his mind. Arthur draws Excalibur. The sacred sword still gleams in the pre-dawn light, its blade as bright as the day the Lady of the Lake first gave it to him. How long ago was that? 40 years? 50? It feels like yesterday and like a lifetime ago. The sword has never failed him. It has brought him victory in 100 battles. But now it will be used for something darker. to kill his own flesh and blood. He begins to walk toward Mordred. Each step is slow but certain, deliberate. His boots squelch in the bloody mud. He passes the bodies of men he knew, men he knighted, men who believed in his dream. There is Sir Ector's son, who had been like a brother to Arthur. There is young Sir Gareth, no, not Gareth. Gareth died in the rescue of Guinevere, killed by Lancelot's sword. But here is another young knight, his face peaceful in death, almost as if he's sleeping. Arthur wants to stop, to close the boy's eyes, to say a prayer. But he keeps walking. There will be time for prayers later. If he survives. His armor feels heavier with each step. The weight of chainmail and plate, yes, but also the weight of memory. The weight of every decision that brought him to this moment. If he had never lain with Morgause, if he had acknowledged Mordred as his son instead of hiding him away, if he had been stricter with Guinevere and Lancelot, or more forgiving. If. 1,000 IFS, and each one leads to this same field of death. Mordred sees him coming. The young man, Arthur's son, though he can barely think that word without pain, stands and waits. He does not run. Perhaps he is too tired to run. Perhaps he, too, understands that this is inevitable. That from the moment of his birth, their story could only end one way. Mordred draws his own blade, a dark sword he took from a Saxon king. It is not Excalibur's equal, but it is sharp and strong and has tasted plenty of blood today. Mordred begins to walk forward too, meeting his father in the center of that terrible field. His armor is newer than Arthur's, less dented, but splattered with just as much blood. Some of it is his own. He has a wound in his side that has been ignoring, and his left arm hangs a bit stiffly. But his sword arm is strong. And in his eyes there is a hatred that has been burning for years. Ever since he learned who his father was and how he had been conceived, born of incest and shame. Ever since he realized that Arthur would never publicly acknowledge him, never give him the place he deserved. But beneath the hatred, if you looked closely, you might see something else. Sorrow, perhaps. Or the exhaustion of someone who has hated too long and is tired of the wait. Mordred had loved Arthur once, when he first came to Camelot as a young knight. Had admired him, looked up to him. Had dreamed of being worthy of such a father. But that love had curdled into something poisonous when he learned the truth. And now it's too late to go back. Too late for anything but this. They stop 10 paces apart. The first pale light of dawn touches their faces, and in that light they look alike. The same strong jaw, the same set to the shoulders. Father and son. King and heir. Destroyer and destroyed. Mordred, Arthur says, and his voice is tired beyond all measure. It is the voice of a man who has seen too much, lost too much, carried too heavy a burden for too long. It's not too late. Put down your sword. We can end this war right now. No more death. No more blood. I will find mercy, even now, even for you. You are my son. That must count for something. Mordred laughs, but it's a hollow sound, empty of any real mirth. Mercy? From you, Father? The man who hid me away like a shameful secret? The man who was ashamed of what I was, of how I came to be. His voice rises, cracking with emotion. I am the son of the great King Arthur, but I had to learn it from whispers and rumors. You never claimed me. Never loved me. And now you speak of mercy. He shakes his head, and for just a moment, he looks young and vulnerable. Like the boy he once was, desperate for his father's approval. But then the mask of hatred returns. No. Our fates were written long ago. Before I was born. Before you even knew what you had done. Merlin saw it, didn't he? He warned you. He told you that a child born on May Day would destroy you. And so you tried to kill all those babies, sent them out to sea to drown. But I survived. I always survive. And now I'm here to fulfill the prophecy. Arthur flinches at that. The massacre of the May Day babies is his greatest shame, greater even than the sin that created Mordred. He had been young and afraid, and he had listened to Merlin's dark counsel. How many innocent children had died because of his fear? 20? 30? He doesn't know. He has tried not to think about it. But their small ghosts have haunted his dreams for decades. I know, he says quietly. I know what I did. It was unforgivable. But I was young and frightened, and I listened to the wrong voice. I thought I could change fate. I was wrong. Yes, Mordred says. You were wrong. About so many things. And now we pay the price. He raises his sword. Let's finish the story, Father. Let's give the bards something to sing about. Arthur looks at his son one more time, trying to memorize his face. Trying to see past the hatred to the person Mordred might have been, in a better world. In a world where Arthur had made different choices. But that world doesn't exist. Only this one, blood-soaked and broken. They raise their swords. For a heartbeat, the world holds its breath. Even the ravens fall silent. Then they charge. The clash of steel rings out across the silent field, sharp and clear in the dawn air. Arthur is older, his reflexes not quite what they once were, but his skill has not diminished. Every movement is precise, economical, born of decades of combat. He knows 1,000 ways to kill a man with a sword. He has fought in more battles than he can count. His body moves almost without thought, muscle memory taking over. Mordred is younger, faster, and he fights with the recklessness of someone who doesn't care if he lives or dies. His strikes are wild but powerful, driven by rage and pain and a lifetime of resentment. He swings his blade in great sweeping arcs, trying to use his youth and strength to overwhelm his father. Excalibur blazes with holy light, the sacred sword responding to Arthur's righteous grief. Mordred's blade seems to drink in the darkness, forged in hatred and quenched in blood. Each time they meet, sparks fly like dying stars, bright against the gray dawn. They circle each other, trading blows. Arthur parries and riposts, his movements controlled and defensive. He is trying, even now, not to kill his son if he can avoid it. Trying to find some way to end this without death. But Mordred gives him no opening, no chance for mercy. The young man attacks relentlessly, his face twisted with fury. "Die," he screams. "Die and let me be free of you." His sword comes down in a vicious overhead strike. Arthur blocks it, Excalibur crossing Mordred's blade, the two swords lock together. For a moment they stand there, face to face, their blades between them. "I'm sorry," Arthur whispers. "I'm so sorry." And he means it. Sorry for the way Mordred was conceived. Sorry for hiding him away. Sorry for the massacre. Sorry for all of it. But sorry is not enough. It has never been enough. Mordred snarls and shoves Arthur back, breaking the lock. They separate and circle again, breathing hard. Both men are wounded, bleeding from a dozen small cuts. Both are exhausted, their arms trembling with fatigue. This cannot last much longer. The duel is brief. Perhaps it lasts 5 minutes. Perhaps 10. Time seems to stretch and compress. There is no grace here, no beauty like in the tourneys of old. Only two men fighting to the death because they cannot imagine any other ending. Because fate has brought them to this moment and will not release them until one or both are dead. Arthur sees his opening when Mordred overextends on a lunge, his balance shifting forward just a fraction too far. It is the kind of mistake a young fighter makes when anger overcomes training. With a sigh that echoes the sorrow of a kingdom, Arthur moves forward, guided by a heavy, ancient duty. Excalibur, glowing with a soft, lunar light, meets its final purpose, passing through the shadows of the conflict as if they were but a dream. In this final touch, the long struggle of years begins to dissolve. There is no pain, only the quiet closing of a circle that was drawn long ago. Mordred stills, his gaze meeting Arthur's, not with hatred, but with the sudden, clear recognition of a son finding his father at the end of all things. The world around them begins to blur into a soft, hazy gray. But the legend does not end in silence. As the last embers of his strength flicker, Mordred reaches out one final time, not to destroy, but to complete the destiny they both share. One last, lingering act of connection. He moves closer, leaning into the light of the sacred blade, as the distance between father and son finally vanishes. They are close enough now to feel the warmth of each other's breath, close enough to see the reflection of a lost kingdom in each other's eyes. The world is dimming now, the light of the sun sinking far below the horizon. In one final, sweeping motion, their fates become permanently entwined. A final strike, a final touch, a heavy weight that finally settles upon Arthur's brow. The steel and the story find their rest, and for a moment, both men freeze, locked together by the silver threads of time and fate. The field grows cold, and the stars begin to watch over the quiet that remains. Father and son, destroyer and destroyed, joined at last in death. For a long moment they stand there, swaying. Then Mordred's strength fails. He falls backward, pulling himself free from Excalibur with a wet, tearing sound. He collapses onto the bloody grass, his sword falling from his nerveless fingers. He lies there, staring up at the lightening sky. The pain is fading now, replaced by a spreading coldness. He can feel his life flowing out of him with each beat of his failing heart. He tries to speak but can only manage a whisper. Father. The word is barely audible. Is it a curse? A plea for forgiveness? Even Mordred doesn't know. Then his eyes glaze over and he is gone, his last breath rattling in his throat. The son of King Arthur, born of sin, raised in secret, dead at his father's hand. Arthur wavers, standing like an ancient oak in the center of a fading storm. A heavy weight remains, a final, cold reminder of the path he has walked. A warmth flows over his tired features, as the heat of the day's struggle begins to cool, veiling his sight in a soft, crimson haze. The edges of the world begin to soften. The earth beneath him seems to tilt, gently swaying like a boat upon a quiet sea. He reaches up with a slow, trembling hand, touching the hilt of the destiny that has finally reached its end. With one last breath of effort, he releases the iron burden, letting it fall away into the shadows. A deep, rhythmic stillness follows, as the exhaustion of a lifetime finally begins to settle into his bones. He looks down at the silent form of his son, and tears, clear and heavy, fall like rain upon a parched land, blurring the lines between what was lost and what must now be forgiven. "I'm sorry," he whispers to the dead. His voice breaks. "I'm so sorry, my son. I failed you." I failed everyone. His legs buckle and he falls to his knees beside Mordred's corpse. He wants to reach out, to close his son's eyes, to touch his face one last time. But his arms won't obey him anymore. The wound is mortal. He knows it. He can feel death creeping through his body, cold and inexorable. He has minutes left. Perhaps less. Chapter 2: The Mortal Wound. Bedivere and Lucan are running toward him now, their shouts distant and muffled in Arthur's ringing ears. They reach him just as he begins to topple forward. Lucan, despite his own grievous wounds, catches the king and eases him down gently. "My lord," he cries. "My lord, hold on." But even as he speaks, Lucan's face goes pale. He gasps and presses a hand to his side, where blood seeps through his armor. He had taken a spear wound earlier in the battle and has been fighting on through sheer will. Now, the exertion of running and catching Arthur has torn something loose inside him. "Lucan," Arthur says, focusing on his knight's face with difficulty. Everything seems far away, seen through a dark tunnel. "You're hurt." Lucan tries to smile, tries to reassure his king, but blood bubbles from his lips. His legs give way and he collapses into Arthur's arms. The two wounded men hold each other, king and knight, as the life drains from Lucan's body. "My king," Lucan breathes, his voice barely a whisper. "It was an honor to serve you. The greatest honor of my life." "No," Arthur says, cradling the dying knight. His tears fall onto Lucan's face. "No, not you too. Faithful Lucan. Good Lucan. Don't leave me." But Lucan's eyes are already glazing over. He manages one more smile, genuine and warm despite the pain. "Camelot," he whispers. "It was beautiful while it lasted." And then he is still, his last breath sighing out of him like a prayer. Arthur holds him for a long moment, this man who had served him without question, without hesitation, from the very beginning. Another good man dead because of him. Another loyal heart stilled. Bedivere kneels beside them both, tears streaming down his weathered face. He is the last now. The last knight of the Round Table. All the others are dead, Lancelot in exile, Gawain dead at Dover, Gareth and Gaheris killed in the rescue, Percival and Bors gone to seek the Grail and never returning. Hundreds of knights, the finest warriors in the world, all gone. And now Lucan too. Only Bedivere remains, and he must bear witness to the end. "My lord," Bedivere says, his voice choked with grief. "We must get you help. There are healers in the villages. Nuns who know the arts of medicine. We can. Arthur shakes his head weakly. No, Bediva. No healers can cure this wound. I can feel it. Death has his hand on my shoulder already. He coughs and blood flecks his lips. But there is something you can do for me. One last task for the last night of the Round Table. He looks toward the east, where the land slopes down toward water. His vision is dimming, but he can still see it in his mind's eye. The lake. The sacred lake where he first received Excalibur from the lady's pale hand, so many years ago. Take me to the lake, he says. I can feel her calling me. The lady of the lake. She's calling me home. Bediva wants to argue, to insist on finding help, but Arthur's tone leaves no room for debate. Please, the king whispers. Help me up. We don't have much time. Bediva lifts Arthur as gently as he can. The king is heavy in his armor, dead weight now that his strength has failed. But Bediva has carried heavier burdens. He has carried the weight of Arthur's dream for 40 years. He can carry the man himself for a little while longer. He gets Arthur's arm across his shoulders and half carries, half drags him away from the battlefield. Every step is agony for both of them. Arthur's head wound throbs with each heartbeat, and Bediva's old muscles scream in protest. But they move forward, slow and steady. They leave the battlefield behind, walking through the carnage. All around them lie the dead. Knights of the Round Table, their bright surcoats dulled with blood and dirt. Saxon warriors, their blonde hair matted with gore. Common soldiers, peasants who were conscripted to fight in a war they didn't understand. Some Bediva recognizes. There is Sir Lucan, who they left behind. There is Sir Mordred, Arthur's son, his face peaceful in death now that the hatred has left it. There are young knights who had joined Arthur's court with stars in their eyes, dreaming of glory and adventure. They found neither. There are old warriors who should have died in their beds, surrounded by grandchildren, not here on this muddy field. Bediva sees faces he knows from decades of campaigning. Men he drank with, trained with, fought beside. All gone now. All silent. The crows are already gathering, circling overhead, waiting for the living to leave so they can begin their feast. The thought makes Bediva sick. These were heroes, every one of them. They deserve better than to be carrion for birds. Is this what I leave behind? Arthur murmurs, half delirious from pain and blood loss. He's looking at the bodies, his eyes unfocused. A field of corpses? A broken kingdom? Orphans and widows? His voice breaks. I wanted to build something beautiful. something that would last. A kingdom of justice and peace, where might served right instead of crushing it. Where was the wrong in that? Where did I fail? Bediva's voice is firm despite his own tears. He will not let Arthur die thinking he failed. You leave behind more than this, my lord. Much more. Yes, the kingdom has fallen. Yes, we lie in ruins. But you built Camelot. For 30 years, you gave us peace. You created the Round Table and showed us that knights could be more than just killers. You taught us honor, justice, compassion. You showed us what we could be, even if only for a moment. That matters, my lord. That will endure long after this battlefield is forgotten. Arthur tries to smile but winces in pain. Pretty words, Bediva. You always had a way with words. But the truth is darker, isn't it? The dream cost too much. Too many good men dead. Too much blood spilled for an ideal that could never last in this hard world. Guinevere and Lancelot's love destroyed us. My own sin in fathering Mordred destroyed us. We were human, all of us, and our human weaknesses brought down everything we built. He coughs, and more blood stains his lips. Maybe it was foolish to even try. Maybe Merlin was right when he said the age of magic was ending, and my kind of kingdom couldn't survive in the age of iron and blood that would follow. They walk in silence for a time, the only sound their labored breathing and Arthur's occasional grunt of pain. The sun is rising now, painting the eastern sky in shades of pink and gold. It's going to be a beautiful day, Bediva thinks bitterly. A beautiful day for such an ugly ending. They pass through a burned village, its thatched roofs collapsed into charcoal, its walls blackened. This was Mordred's work, punishment for a village that stayed loyal to Arthur. Bediva sees small bodies among the ruins and quickly looks away. Children. Always the innocent pay the highest price. At last, after what feels like hours but is probably only 20 minutes, they reach the lake. It is the same lake where, as a young man newly crowned, Arthur first received Excalibur from the lady's pale hand rising from the water. The lake is dark and still, reflecting the lightening sky like a mirror of polished obsidian. Mist drifts across its surface in slow, ghostly spirals. The water laps gently at the shore with a sound like whispered secrets. This place feels sacred, untouched by the violence that has consumed the land. Arthur sinks down at the water's edge, his strength completely gone now. Bediva eases him down as gently as possible, letting the king rest against a moss-covered stone. For a moment they just sit there, breathing hard, saying nothing. Arthur's face is gray beneath the blood and dirt. His breathing is shallow and irregular. Bediva knows he doesn't have long. An hour, maybe. Maybe less. Arthur reaches down with a trembling hand and unsheathes Excalibur. The sacred sword slides free with a soft whisper of steel. Even now, even covered in blood, Mordred's blood, Arthur's blood, the blood of 100 other men, the sword is beautiful. Its blade catches the dawn light and seems to glow from within. The runes along its length, inscribed by the Lady of the Lake herself, pulse with a soft blue radiance. The jewels set into its crossguard, rubies and sapphires and emeralds, gleam like frozen fire. This is not just a weapon. It is the symbol of Arthur's kingship, the proof of his divine right to rule. Bediva, Arthur says, his voice barely above a whisper. He has to stop and gather his strength before he can continue. My oldest friend. My last night. I have one final command for you. He holds out Excalibur with shaking hands. The sword is heavy, and it takes all his remaining strength to lift it. Take this sword. Throw it into the lake. Return it to the lady who gave it to me so long ago. Let it go back to the deep waters from which it came. This is my last wish. Bediva stares at the sword in shock, as if Arthur has asked him to throw away his own arm. But my lord, this is Excalibur. The sword of kings. The sword that united Britain. We could use it to rebuild. We could give it to the next king, whoever that may be. It could be a rallying point, a symbol of hope. We could. Arthur shakes his head weakly, and even that small motion seems to cause him pain. No. Its time is past. My time is past. The age of magic is ending, Bediva. The age of men is beginning, and in that age, there is no place for enchanted swords and sacred quests. Let it return to the deep waters. Let it sleep until it's needed again. If it's ever needed again. He coughs, a wet, rattling sound. Please, Bediva. Do this for me. Don't make me spend my last moments arguing with you. I've had enough arguments. Enough conflict. Let there be peace, at least at the end. Bediva bows his head, tears dripping from his cheeks. Yes, my lord. As you command. I will do it. He takes Excalibur from Arthur's hands, feeling the weight of it, the perfect balance. How many times has he seen this sword flash in battle? How many times has it saved Arthur's life and the lives of his knights? Chapter 3: The Return of the Sword. Bediva walks toward the lake's edge, Excalibur heavy in his grip. Each step feels wrong. Each step feels like he's betraying everything they fought for. He stops at the water's edge and looks down at the sword in the growing light. The blade is flawless, unmarred despite countless battles. Not a single nick or scratch on its perfect edge. It has cut through steel armor, through shields, through the weapons of 1,000 enemies. And it has never failed, never broken, never bent. The grip fits his hand as if made for him, though he knows it was made for Arthur. The leather wrapping is worn smooth by decades of use, molded to the shape of the king's hand. Bedivere can almost feel Arthur's presence in the sword, can almost hear the echoes of every battle it has seen. This is the sword that crowned a king. The sword that brought justice to Britain. The sword that united the warring tribes and drove back the Saxons. The sword that carved Camelot out of chaos and made the dream of the Round Table possible. How can he simply throw it away? How can he cast it into the water like a piece of refuse? It's not just a sword. It's history. It's legend. It's the physical embodiment of everything Arthur achieved. Future generations could rally around this blade. It could inspire kings yet unborn to reach for Arthur's ideals. It could be the foundation on which a new Camelot is built. He turns and looks back at Arthur, slumped against the stone, barely conscious. Perhaps Arthur won't even remember giving the order. The king is dying, delirious with pain and blood loss. Bedivere could hide the sword, keep it safe, and Arthur would never know. He looks around and spots a large bush a few yards from the shore. Perfect. He walks over to it and carefully hides Excalibur beneath its branches, covering the gleaming blade with fallen leaves. There. Safe and hidden. He can retrieve it later, after Arthur is gone. He pushes the thought away. He'll deal with that when the time comes. For now, he returns to Arthur, composing his face into an expression of solemn duty completed. "It is done, my lord," he says, kneeling beside the king. Arthur opens his eyes. They are glazed with pain but still sharp, still intelligent. The mind behind them is still Arthur's, even if the body is failing. "What did you see?" he asks, his voice barely audible. Bedivere hesitates for just a fraction of a second. "I saw the sword sink into the water. The ripples spread out across the lake and then faded. Nothing more, my lord." Arthur's gaze pierces him, and for a moment Bedivere feels like a child caught in a lie. "You're lying to me, Bedivere. I can see it in your eyes. I've known you for 40 years. I know when you're lying." His voice hardens despite its weakness. "If you had truly thrown Excalibur into the lake, you would have seen something wondrous. The Lady of the Lake would not let such a gift simply sink without acknowledgement. Go back. And this time, do as I commanded. Don't make me doubt you, my friend. Not at the end. Bedivere bows his head in shame, his cheeks burning. Of course Arthur knew. Arthur always knew. Forgive me, my lord. I will do it. I swear I will. He rises and walks back to the lake, his steps heavy with guilt. He retrieves Excalibur from its hiding place and once again approaches the water's edge. Again he looks at the sword, drinking in its beauty one last time. The sun is higher now, and the light dances along the blade like living fire. How can something so beautiful be meant to disappear? But Arthur's words echo in his mind. Don't make me doubt you, my friend. Not at the end. Bedivere has served Arthur faithfully for 4 decades. He has fought beside him in 100 battles. He has seen the best and worst of him. He has never once betrayed that trust. He will not start now, even if it breaks his heart. Even if it means watching the symbol of everything they built sink beneath the dark waters. He raises the sword high above his head, preparing to throw it. But again, he cannot do it. His arm freezes in mid-motion. This is Britain's greatest treasure. The most powerful weapon in the land. In the wrong hands it could bring ruin, yes, but in the right hands it could bring salvation. What if Britain needs it again? What if another king rises who could wield it as Arthur did? What if throwing it away means condemning future generations to darkness because they lack the symbol around which to rally? He lowers his arms, the sword point drooping toward the ground. He stands there for a long moment, paralyzed by indecision. Then, hating himself, he hides the sword again in a different place, behind a large rock this time. He returns to Arthur, his face burning with shame, but determined to try the lie one more time. Surely Arthur is too weak now to notice. Surely the king is too far gone to care. I threw it, my lord, he says, not meeting Arthur's eyes. It sank into the deep water. It's gone. Arthur's voice, when it comes, is like the crack of a whip despite its weakness. Bedivere, do you betray me now? Even you? At the very end, will you disobey me? The king tries to sit up but falls back, gasping in pain. I commanded you twice and twice you have lied to me. My oldest friend, my truest knight, and you cannot grant me this one last wish. Tears stream down Arthur's face, whether from pain or disappointment Bedivere cannot tell. Please, the king whispers, and now he is begging. Please, Bedivere. I am dying. I can feel my life slipping away with every breath. Don't let me die knowing that my last command was disobeyed. Don't let me die doubting you. I beg you, as your king and as your friend, throw the sword into the lake. Bedivere falls to his knees, weeping openly now. Forgive me, my lord. Forgive me. Pause 2 seconds, I will do it. I swear on my honor, on my soul, on everything I hold sacred, I will do it this time. I will not fail you again. He staggers to his feet and runs to the lake, blinded by tears. He retrieves Excalibur for the third and final time. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely grip the hilt. This time there is no hesitation. He cannot bear to disappoint Arthur again. Cannot bear to see that look of betrayal in his king's eyes. He strides to the water's edge, draws back his arm, and with all his strength, with all the strength of his old warrior's body, with all the strength of his grief and love, he hurls Excalibur far out over the lake. The sword spins through the air end over end, flashing in the morning sun. Tis beautiful in flight, like a shooting star or a striking hawk. And then, a wonder. A miracle that Bedivere will remember for the rest of his life. Just as the blade is about to strike the water, just as it's about to disappear beneath the dark surface forever, something rises from the lake. A hand. A woman's hand, pale and graceful as a swan's neck. It rises from the water without disturbing it, without creating a single ripple, as if the lake is made of something thicker than water. Air, perhaps. Or dream stuff. The hand catches Excalibur perfectly by the hilt, snatching it from the air with impossible precision. For a long moment the hand holds the sword aloft, the blade pointing toward the sky. Then, slowly, deliberately, the hand brandishes the sword 3 times. Once toward the east, where the sun is rising. Once toward the south, where Camelot lies in ruins. Once toward the west, where Avalon waits beyond the edge of the world. Each time the sword flashes like lightning, like captured sunlight, bright enough to hurt Bedivere's eyes. Then, just as slowly and deliberately, the hand and the sword begin to sink. They descend through the air as gently as a falling leaf, showing no haste. The fingers remain wrapped around Excalibur's hilt, holding it lovingly, reverently. Down they go, down toward the dark water. They touch the surface and keep going, slipping beneath without a splash, without a sound. For just a moment Bedivere can see them under the water, glowing with a soft blue light. Then they're gone, swallowed by the depths. The lake swallows them completely, and there is not even a ripple to mark where they vanished. Bedivere stands frozen, hardly believing what he has seen. He has witnessed magic before, he has seen Merlin's tricks, has fought alongside enchanted knights, has been to the chapel where the Grail appeared, but never anything like this. Never anything so beautiful and so sad at the same time. He understands now why Arthur insisted. This was not just the return of a sword. It was a homecoming. Excalibur was never really Arthur's. It was only on loan, a gift from the other world, and now it has returned to where it belongs. He stands there for another moment, staring at the spot where the hand appeared, half hoping it will rise again. But the lake is still and silent, giving nothing away. Finally Bedivere turns and runs back to Arthur, words tumbling from his lips. "My lord, I saw it." A hand rose from the water, a lady's hand, and it caught the sword and... He stops, seeing Arthur's smile. It's a weak smile, barely more than a ghost of expression, but it's genuine. Real. "Good," Arthur whispers. "Very good, Bedivere. Excalibur has gone home. The lady has reclaimed her gift." His eyes drift closed for a moment, and Bedivere thinks he's died. But then they open again, struggling to focus. "Now, help me to the water's edge. My time grows very short. I can hear them calling me. The queens. They're coming for me." Bedivere wants to ask who, what queens, but he doesn't. He simply does as Arthur asks, lifting him once more and carrying him the last few yards to the very edge of the lake. And now, as Arthur's life ebbs away like the tide, something approaches across the water. Something not quite of this world. Something ancient and eternal. Chapter 4: The Voyage to Avalon. Bedivere lowers Arthur gently to the ground at the very edge of the lake. The king can no longer stand. Can no longer even sit up without support. His breathing is shallow and rapid, his face the color of old parchment. The wound in his skull has stopped bleeding, but only because he has so little blood left to lose. Every breath is a labor. Every heartbeat seems like it might be his last. Bedivere knows he should say something, should find words for this moment, but his throat is tight and his mind is blank with grief. They sit there in silence, the dying king and the last night, as the sun climbs higher into the sky. Somewhere birds are singing, welcoming the new day, oblivious to the death of kings. A gentle breeze stirs the mist on the lake, pushing it into new patterns. And then, something appears. At first Bedivere thinks it's just a thicker patch of mist, a trick of the eye. But no. It's something solid. Something real. A boat. It glides across the water toward them, moving without oar or sail. There's no one rowing it, no wind filling a canvas, yet it comes steadily toward the shore, its progress smooth and silent. The boat is black as midnight, its wood dark and gleaming like polished jet. But edged with gold, gold leaf that catches the light and throws it back in brilliant flashes. It's the most beautiful boat Bedivere has ever seen, and the most strange. It doesn't look like something made by human hands. It looks like something that grew, like a seed planted in the other world and nurtured by strange magics. As it draws closer, Bedivere sees that it's not empty. There are 3 figures standing in it, tall and still. Women, dressed in long robes of deepest black. They wear crowns on their heads, not golden crowns like mortal queens wear, but crowns that seem made of starlight and shadow. Their faces are beautiful beyond description, but with a beauty that's almost painful to look at. Like staring at the sun. Like staring at something too pure for mortal eyes. The boat glides up to the shore and stops without bumping, without jarring, as if it knows exactly where to be. The 3 women step out onto the shore, and Bedivere realizes they're not walking. They are floating, their feet not quite touching the ground. They move like smoke, like dreams, like something that exists between one heartbeat and the next. The first woman is the Lady of the Lake, though she looks different from the day she gave Arthur Excalibur. Then she had been young and bright. Now she appears ageless, ancient, her eyes holding the weight of centuries. The second is someone Bedivere doesn't recognize. She is taller than the others, regal and commanding. Later he will learn that this is the Queen of Avalon, ruler of that mystical isle that exists at the edge of the world where the setting sun touches the sea. But the third he knows. Morgan Le Fay. Arthur's half-sister. The enchantress who had been Arthur's enemy for so many years. Who had plotted against him, schemed to bring him down, used her dark magic to cause him pain. She who had borne Mordred and raised him in hatred of his father. Bedivere's hand goes to his sword, an instinctive reaction. But something stops him from drawing it. Because Morgan's face, her face shows only grief. Only love. The hatred that had driven her for so long is gone, burned away, leaving behind something raw and real. She looks at Arthur with an expression that breaks Bedivere's heart. This is a sister looking at a dying brother. This is family, blood calling to blood, all the old resentments falling away in the face of death. The 3 queens approach Arthur where he lies. They kneel around him, their dark robes pooling on the grass like spilled ink. The Lady of the Lake speaks, and her voice is like water over stones, like wind through leaves, like something not quite human. Arthur, she says softly, tenderly. It is time. Come with us. We will take you to Avalon, the blessed isle. There your wounds may be healed. There you may rest from your labors. Avalon. Arthur whispers, and his eyes try to focus on her face. I thought it was only a story. A legend that old knights told young ones to give them hope. The Queen of Avalon smiles, and it's like the sun coming out from behind clouds. Legends are often more true than history, Arthur of Britain. Avalon is real. It exists beyond the edge of the world, where mortal men cannot go. But you are more than mortal. You are the once and future king. And you have earned your rest. Morgan Le Fay reaches out and touches Arthur's face with infinite gentleness. "Brother," she says, and her voice breaks on the word. "Forgive me. For everything. For Mordred, for the pain I caused you, for the years I spent hating you. I was angry at our father, at the world that made me powerless, and I took that anger out on you. But you were always the better part of us. The nobler part. And I am so sorry." Tears stream down her face, and Bedivere realizes with shock that he has never seen her cry before. Has never seen her show any emotion but cold fury. Arthur manages a smile. "Sister," he says, "there's nothing to forgive. We were both victims of fate. Both trapped by the sins of our fathers. But you came for me, at the end. That's what matters." He reaches up with a trembling hand and touches her cheek, wiping away a tear. "Take me home, Morgan. Take me to Avalon." The three queens lift him as easily as if he weighs nothing. As if is made of air and light instead of flesh and bone. They carry him to the boat and lay him down gently in its bottom. His head rests in their laps, cushioned by their soft robes. Only then does Arthur seem to remember Bedivere. He turns his head with difficulty and sees his knight standing on the shore, watching with tears streaming down his weathered face. Arthur reaches out, and Bedivere rushes forward, falling to his knees beside the boat. He grasps Arthur's hand in both of his, holding it tight, as if he can keep the king from leaving through sheer strength of will. "My lord," Bedivere chokes out. "My king. Don't go. Don't leave me." Arthur squeezes his hand with what little strength remains. "Bedivere. My last knight. My truest friend. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything. You have been the best of men." His voice is fading now, barely audible. "Please, pray for me. Pray that I find peace. Pray that I find forgiveness for my sins." Bedivere is weeping openly now, not caring who sees. "Will you come back, my lord? Will Britain see you again? Tell me you'll come back." Arthur's smile is sad and distant. "Perhaps, when Britain needs me most. When the darkness is deepest and hope is nearly gone. I will return. That is what the prophecy says, isn't it? The once and future king. Rex quondam, Rex Q futurus. The king who was and the king who will be. His eyes drift closed. But for now, I must sleep. I'm so tired, Bediva. So very tired. His hand goes slack in Bediva's grip. For a horrible moment Bediva thinks he's dead. But no, his chest still rises and falls, shallow but steady. He's unconscious, already halfway to Avalon. Bediva releases his hand gently and steps back. The boat begins to move, drifting away from the shore without anyone touching it, without anyone steering it. The three queens sit motionless, looking down at Arthur with expressions of infinite compassion. Morgan Le Fay begins to sing, a wordless melody in a language Bediva doesn't understand. It's beautiful and heartbreaking at once. The boat glides further out onto the lake, moving toward the rising sun. Bediva watches from the shore, his feet in the cold water, his eyes straining to see every last detail. The mist grows thicker, wrapping around the boat in white veils. Soon he can see only a dark shape in the fog. Then even that fades. Then there's nothing but mist and water and the dying echo of Morgan's song. The boat is gone. Arthur is gone. The age of Camelot is over. Bediva stands there for a long time, hours, maybe, staring at the place where the boat vanished. He keeps thinking he sees something in the mist, a shadow, a shape. Keeps thinking he hears Arthur's voice calling to him. But it's just wishful thinking. Just grief playing tricks on his old mind. Finally, when the sun is high overhead and his legs are numb from standing in the cold water, he turns and walks away. The last night of the round table, leaving the lake. Leaving his king. Walking into a world that no longer has any place for him. But where has the boat gone? Where is Avalon? The legends say, the legends say many things. They say it is an island in the western sea, beyond the reach of mortal ships. They say it is the blessed isle, the Isle of Apples, where it is always spring and the trees bloom eternally with white flowers. They say there is no pain there, no sickness, no death. No sorrow and no regret. They say time moves differently there, that a day in Avalon might be a year in the mortal world, or a year might be only an hour. They say that Arthur lies in an enchanted sleep beneath flowering trees, his wounds tended by gentle hands. That the three queens watch over him, keeping vigil, waiting for the day when he will be needed again. That Excalibur rests beside him, ready to be drawn once more when the time is right. That he dreams of Camelot as it was in its glory days, when the round table was whole and his knights were all alive and the kingdom knew peace. They say he's waiting. waiting for Britain's darkest hour. Waiting for the moment when all hope seems lost and the land cries out for a savior. Then, the stories promise, he will wake. He will rise from his bed of flowers. He will take up Excalibur once more. And he will return to save Britain as he did before. The once and future king, coming back to fulfill his destiny. To complete the story that was interrupted at Camlan. But for now, he sleeps. And the world moves on without him. Chapter 5, The Aftermath. But what of the others? Those who survived the fall of Camelot? Their stories, too, must be told. Guinevere, the beautiful queen who caused such destruction with her love, hears the news of Arthur's death while she's in hiding. Hears too of Lancelot's exile and grief. And something breaks inside her. Or perhaps something that was already broken finally shatters completely. She cannot go back to who she was. Cannot pretend that nothing has changed. The weight of guilt is too heavy to bear. She makes her choice. She retreats to a convent, one of the small religious houses scattered across Britain. She asks for sanctuary and is granted it. She takes the veil, becomes a nun, turns her back on the world that she helped to destroy. They cut off her beautiful golden hair, that hair that Lancelot loved to see loose and flowing. They give her a rough woolen habit to replace her silk gowns. They give her a small cell with a hard bed and no comforts. She accepts it all without complaint. She spends her days in prayer and penance. On her knees in the chapel from dawn until dusk, her lips moving in constant whispered prayers. She prays for Arthur's soul. She prays for Lancelot, wherever he is. She prays for Gawain and all the knights who died because of her. She prays for Mordred, that twisted soul born of sin. She prays for herself, though she knows she doesn't deserve forgiveness. The other nuns say they've never seen anyone so devoted, so consumed by the need for atonement. How beauty fades with time and hardship. The soft hands become calloused from work. The smooth skin becomes lined and weathered. The bright eyes become tired and red from weeping. But something else happens too. Her eyes grow peaceful. After years of turmoil, of being pulled between Arthur and Lancelot, of living with secrets and lies, she finds a kind of rest. Not happiness, she will never be happy again. But rest. A cessation of struggle. She has found, if not forgiveness, then at least acceptance. Meanwhile, in France, Lancelot receives a letter. It arrives months after it was sent, carried by a messenger who has searched half the kingdom for him. The letter is sealed with Gawain's signet ring, and Lancelot's hands shake as he breaks the seal. He reads through tears as Gawain's words, written with a dying hand just before the Battle of Camlan, pour out forgiveness and love. I forgive you, lots. I understand now. Return to Britain. Help Arthur. He needs you. But by the time the letter arrives, it is already too late. The dates written on the letter tell Lancelot that Gawain has been dead for months. That Arthur's final battle has already been fought. But he doesn't know that Arthur is gone. Doesn't know about Mordred's death or the voyage to Avalon. He only knows that Britain needs him and he has been hiding in France like a coward. Immediately he gathers his forces, the knights who followed him into exile, the soldiers loyal to him personally, and sails back to Britain. But when he arrives, the war is over. The kingdom lies in ruins, villages burned, fields trampled, bodies still rotting where they fell. He searches desperately for news of Arthur and finally learns the truth. The king is gone, taken to Avalon by 3 mysterious queens. Lancelot falls to his knees when he hears this, overcome with grief. He came too late. He failed his king one final time. All his skill, all his strength, all his reputation as the greatest knight in the world, none of it matters because he wasn't there when Arthur needed him most. He searches for Guinevere. It takes weeks, but he finally tracks her to the convent where she has taken refuge. He sends a message asking to see her, and after some hesitation, she agrees. They meet in the convent's visiting room, speaking through iron bars that separate the nuns from the outside world. Lancelot sees her in her simple habit, her hair covered, her face pale and thin. But she's still beautiful to him. She will always be beautiful to him. Come with me, Lancelot pleads, gripping the bars with both hands. Arthur is gone. Mordred is dead. We're free now. We can be together. We can find somewhere quiet, somewhere far from Britain and all these painful memories. We can finally have the life we always wanted. His voice breaks. Please, Guinevere. Don't make me lose you too. I've lost everything else. Don't take yourself away from me. Guinevere shakes her head slowly. She looks at him with eyes full of sorrow and love and something else. Finality. No, Lancelot. Our love destroyed too much. Brought too much death. Gareth and Gaheris, killed by your hand. Gawain, driven mad by grief. Arthur's kingdom, torn apart. How many died because we couldn't control our passion? How much blood is on our hands? She touches the bars, her fingers inches from his, but she doesn't let them meet. Let it end here, she says softly. Let us both seek forgiveness in our own ways. I will pray for you, Lancelot. Every day until I die, I will pray for your soul. Please, pray for me. But we cannot see each other again. To do so would be to spit on the graves of all those who died because of us. I loved you. God help me, I love you still. But that love was poison. And I will not let it poison anything else. Lancelot kneels before the bars. He reaches through and takes her hand, and this time she lets him. He brings it to his lips and kisses it, one last touch, one last moment of contact. He can feel her pulse under his lips, proof that she's real, that she's still here. But even as he kisses her hand, he knows he's saying goodbye. Not just for now. Forever. I love you, he whispers. I will always love you. In this life and whatever comes after. I know, Guinevere says, and tears stream down her face. I know. Then, gently but firmly, she pulls her hand away. She stands and turns and walks back into the convent, her footsteps echoing on the stone floor. Lancelot watches her go, watches until she disappears around a corner and is staring at nothing but empty hallway. He stays there on his knees for a long time, until the Mother Superior comes and gently tells him he must leave. Lancelot leaves the convent and disbands his army. He sends his knights home, distributes his wealth among them, and gives away his sword and armor. He becomes a hermit, finding a small chapel in a deep forest, far from any town or village. He lives there in solitude, sleeping on the ground, eating whatever he can forage, spending his days and nights in prayer. The greatest knight in the world, the man whose name was synonymous with glory and prowess, reduced to a ragged hermit talking to God in an empty chapel. Years pass. 5, perhaps, or 7. Time blurs when you live alone. One day Guinevere dies peacefully in her convent, her sisters around her, her last words a prayer for Lancelot. That night, Lancelot dreams of her. In the dream she comes to him dressed in white, young and beautiful as she was when they first met. She smiles at him and says nothing, just touches his cheek. Then she fades like morning mist. When he wakes, he knows she's gone. He travels to the convent and learns he is too late. She has already been buried in the convent's small cemetery. The Mother Superior shows him to the grave, a simple stone with Guinevere's name and the dates of her birth and death. Nothing about her being a queen. Nothing about Camelot or Arthur or the Round Table. Just a name. Lancelot kneels at the grave and stays there for 7 days and 7 nights, without food or water, praying for her soul and his own. On the 8th day, the nuns find him dead, still kneeling, his hands still clasped in prayer. His face is peaceful, almost smiling. The nuns say it's the most beautiful death they've ever seen, as if he simply chose to stop living and his body obeyed. Some stories say they buried him beside Guinevere, reuniting them in death since they couldn't be together in life. Other stories say they laid him in a separate tomb, keeping them apart even in the grave. But all the stories agree on one thing: their love story, at last, was done. And Bedivere? He builds a small hermitage near the lake where Arthur departed. Just a one-room shelter made of rough wood and thatch, barely enough to keep out the rain. He lives there alone, fishing in the lake for food, praying in the evenings, but mostly just watching the water. Every day he stands at the shore and watches for the boat. Watches for Arthur's return. People from nearby villages sometimes visit, bringing him food or seeking his blessing. He's become something of a holy man in his old age, the last night of the Round Table. They ask him to tell stories of Camelot, and sometimes he does. He tells them about the sword and the stone, about the Round Table, about Lancelot's prowess and Gawain's strength. He tells them about the quest for the Grail and the tournaments and the great battles against the Saxons. He tells them about Arthur's wisdom and justice. He never mentions the adultery or the betrayal or the final battle. In Bedivere's stories, Camelot is perfect, eternal, a golden age that will never come again. He grows old there, his hair white, his back bent, his hands gnarled and arthritic. But he never stops waiting. Never stops believing that one day he will see that black boat emerging from the mist, carrying Arthur back to them. Every morning he wakes and shuffles down to the shore. Every evening he stands there watching the sunset. Waiting. Always waiting. He dies there on the shore, still watching, still faithful. They find him one morning, his body cold, his face turned toward the water. The last night of the Round Table, gone at last. As for Britain, Constantine becomes the new king, a distant relative of Arthur's. But the kingdom is fractured, divided into small warring territories. The Saxon invaders push further inland, claiming more land with each passing year. The dream of a united Britain under one just king fades like morning mist. The Round Table is broken, scattered, its pieces lost or destroyed. The knights are dead or scattered to the winds. The Golden Age is over. The world moves on. But the story does not end. It cannot end. Because even as Camelot falls, even as the kingdom fragments, even as the Saxons claim the land, people remember. They tell stories. They sing songs. And in those stories, in those songs, Camelot lives forever. Chapter 6: The Eternal Legend. because Arthur's tale did not die with him. How could it? Bards and storytellers carried it across the land like a precious flame, passing it from one generation to the next. By firelight in great halls, by hearthside in humble cottages, in marketplaces and village squares, the story was told and retold. Each telling added something new, a detail here, an embellishment there, but the heart remained the same. A king who pulled a sword from stone, who gathered the greatest knights in the world, who dreamed of justice and tried, with all his heart, to make it real. As the years passed, as decades became centuries, something interesting happened. People began to say that Arthur was not truly dead. They whispered it at first, then spoke it openly. He sleeps in Avalon, they said, waiting for Britain's darkest hour. When the need is greatest, when all hope seems lost, he will return. The once and future king. Rex Quondam, Rex Q Futurus. This became his title, his promise, his legacy. Not a king who was, but a king who will be again. Hope, dressed in the armor of legend. And though the Round Table was destroyed, though the knights fell and Camelot crumbled to ruins, something remained. An ideal. A dream of what knights could be, what leaders should be, what societies might become. The code of chivalry, to be brave, to be loyal, to protect the weak, to seek justice, to strive for something better than yourself. These things did not die with Arthur. They became the inheritance of every generation after. The gift Arthur left behind, more enduring than any kingdom of stone and steel. This is not just a story about a king. It never was. It's a story about all of us. About the eternal conflict between our ideals and reality. Between what we dream and what we can achieve. Between the world as it is and the world as it should be. Arthur failed, in the end. We must be honest about that. His kingdom fell. His knights turned against each other. His own son killed him. His dream of perfect justice crumbled into war and bloodshed. By any practical measure, he failed. But the striving, the attempt to build something good and true and beautiful, that was not a failure. That mattered. That will always matter. The story tells us, even when we know we might fail, it's worth fighting for what's right. Even in the darkest times, hope remains if we're brave enough to kindle it. True glory is not in victory but in character, in how we face both triumph and defeat. Love can bless us or curse us, but a life without love, without passion, without connection, is no life at all. The Round Table was circular for a reason. Think about that. No head. No hierarchy. No seat of honor higher than the others. Everyone equal, knight and king alike sitting as brothers. Everyone a peer, everyone with an equal voice. All striving together for a better world. This is Arthur's true gift to us, perhaps. Not a kingdom, but a question that each generation must answer for itself. What kind of world do we want to build? And are we brave enough to try, even knowing we might fail? Even knowing that everything we build might crumble? Are we brave enough to reach for something better? Because that's what Arthur did. He reached. He tried. He failed, but gloriously. And in his failure, he created something immortal. A legend that has outlived his kingdom by 1,000 years and more. A story that still inspires us, still challenges us, still asks us to be better than we are. That's magic more powerful than any enchanted sword. That's a kind of immortality that no king in history has achieved through conquest alone. Picture it now. A quiet lake at twilight, still as obsidian, reflecting the first stars. A boat glides without oar or sail, carrying a king to his rest. His face is peaceful, his battles are over. He dreams of Camelot, a kingdom that was, and a promise of what will one day be. The legends say he is only waiting. Sleeping beneath the flowering trees of Avalon until the world calls for him once more. The once and future king, finally at home. Thank you for journeying through these 10 chapters with us, from the sword and the stone to this final, silver shore. May Arthur's story walk with you in your dreams, reminding you that the truest magic lives in the courage to keep believing. Sleep now, dear traveler. Rest well. Your journey is complete. In your dreams, may you find the peace of Avalon, where the dream of Camelot never truly dies. Good night. Sweet dreams.